okay holding it?
Yeah, no, I'll hold. Yeah, thank you. Good morning. I've come up with my trusty soulmate. This is my inner monkey, Bert, and he will have a further introduction later, but he's quite important. He likes to listen to what I have to say. Ladies, it's International Women's Day. It's 11 o'clock in the morning, and I want to talk dirty. Wherever your minds have gone, particularly Sue Crook at the back, stop it. I'm talking two dirty words, mental health. It's been alluded to several times, but I want to share a little of my story because I now know that my purpose in life is to do everything I can to change the face of mental health for future generations. That's quite an emotional thing to say because I have spent a life believing that I am entirely invisible and that I don't have a voice. So to stand up and say, I think I can do something about the global mental health crisis that we have now is a really big, out there, who do you think you are kind of statement. But the reason I say that is because I genuinely believe that I've come across something that could make a difference. And I've done that because of my own experiences. I've had mental health problems my entire life, but I didn't know that was the case until I was 52. And I was driving home from an early morning yoga class on a very dark and dank February morning, 11 years ago, almost to the day, when suddenly an ambulance turned on its sirens and its blue lights and shot past me, Nino, 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 Nino. And as if someone had pressed a switch, I put my foot on the accelerator and accelerated to 85, then 90 miles an hour. And I was looking for a tree at the side of the road with which to connect. I want to make it clear I was not trying to take my life. I have never been suicidal. I loved my life, and I love my life now. But at that moment, the monkey on my shoulder said into my ear, if you are so severely injured that you are in intensive care, then maybe they will know the damage they've done. Who they is, I can only surmise. Was it the man who I worked with who for 8 years subjected me to horrific emotional abuse and bullying? Yeah. Or was it the people who knew that was going on in senior leadership and who chose to turn a blind eye? Absolutely. Or was it perhaps the sexual predators who preyed on me at various intervals from the age of 5? Or was it actually my teachers who at secondary school gave me A star for all my incredibly emotive, detailed, descriptive essays that I wrote about loneliness, abandonment, and grief after the death of my mother when I was 7, but never thought to look behind the words. Not one of them ever came and said, are you okay, Tana? In those days, there was no such thing as therapy or counselling. In fact, we were told we knew our mum was going to die, and therefore, when she did die, we were not to speak of her again. So I buried the grief that I felt, and it was only years ago that I discovered that what I believed to be true as a child was not true at all, because we were told that she was going to die. My mum was 16 weeks pregnant with me when she was told that she had developed an autoimmune disease and that she was going to become completely paralysed within 1 year to 2 years, and that it was terminal and she was going to die. She had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. She had a 16-week-old inside. Can you imagine what that did to her? It sent her into fight or flight. And that adrenaline that she had in her body throughout those remaining months of me being inside, I absorbed into my nervous system. And I now recognise and understand that that is one of the reasons why I have lived revving up here my whole life and why I've struggled my whole life with really severe anxiety. And I've told myself off and berated myself off being so weak and pathetic for being that way, when actually there's a very, very valid reason why my nervous system is always in overdrive. And I can forgive myself for that. So when my mother had me, she was getting paralysed very quickly, and by the time I could walk, she was paralysed from the neck down. Unfortunately, the illness also robbed her of her voice, and I became her voice, as did my brother and sister. We became storytellers from the moment I could speak, bringing the outside world into her bed, into her sitting room. What I didn't realise was that I believed that as I was growing up, if I was the goodest girl I could ever be for her, the goodest girl, she would get better. What I now know to be true is what I actually believed was, in my soul, if I was the goodest girl ever, when she died, she'd take me with her. But of course she couldn't. She left me behind. So as a 7-year-old who had tried with everything she had in her heart to do the right thing, I was left behind. And at the age of 63 now, you can see it still impacts me. And I was never allowed to share that sense of abandonment with anybody. So I buried it. So 11 years ago, the ambulance comes. I'm looking for a tree. The last thing I have is a tree coming really fast in the center of my windscreen, and then everything goes black. And I go through a feeling as though I've had this connection with the tree in slow motion. But when I come to, I'm actually 200 meters down the road, having spun the car clearly several times, totally physically unharmed, but emotionally completely destroyed. I was taken into a London psychiatric hospital where I spent not the promised 3 days of assessment, but a full traumatic 6 months. I missed my daughter's 18th birthday. She's here hearing me speak for the first time. I missed her 18th birthday. I missed her last term at school. I missed her A-levels. And I would not have wished to have experienced any of those things that led to that point in my life. But I can honestly tell you, hand on heart, I would not have missed the experience for the world. Because it has led to such an extraordinary understanding and determination to understand why so many people, normal people, just like you and me and your children and your husbands and your family members, your colleagues, are struggling so badly with mental health problems. We are in the midst of a global mental health crisis. We are doing everything we can to stick plasters over the wounded by dealing medication and through therapy. And boy, we need it, but there is not enough to go round. And more children of ever younger age are in need of support and are struggling with mental health problems. And I work with children all day, every day. I was a teacher for 25 years and was staggered at the decline in mental health. We had 13 to 18-year-old girls who lived with us because I ran a boarding house for 12 years. So, I know what it's like. I've seen what it's like. I work with children now as a trauma therapist and mind transformation coach, and I'm working with children from 5 upwards who don't want to be in this world, who don't like themselves, who think that they don't deserve to be here, who won't go to school. And it's heartbreaking. But when I was in hospital, I really started to unpick my life, but I also pulled the threads on every other person. When you're inside for 6 months, you meet a lot of people who are usually there for a few days, a week, maybe 2 weeks. And I discovered, yes, there were people with really severe trauma, that they'd fallen out of a plane, they'd been, bombed, they'd been seriously abused, and you could understand why they were there. But 90% of the people I met were new mums. They were husbands who were getting divorced. They were lawyers, doctors, teachers, bus drivers, retired folk who were lonely because everybody's on their internet and they don't exist in that world. So I wanted to know why. And every single person, when I started to pull the threads, the story went back to their childhood, went back to their childhood, went back to their childhood. And I've since spoken to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children, hundreds of adults, to find out what was it that you experienced that you probably have no recollection about, that impacts you and determines whether you're going to have good mental health or struggle with your mental well-being later on in life. Why certain people that you meet as a client or in a group of others or as a colleague will trigger you and make you angry or despise them, and others will love them. And the way I explain it to 5-year-olds and 95-year-olds is this, and this is where Bert becomes important. Each of us is born not as one, but as two. We each have an inner monkey. Each has a completely different personality. And our monkeys have a bag of crayons. And they're with you literally from the moment you are conceived. Because every single thing, every event that you experience in your lifetime from the moment of conception that creates an emotional experience in you is recorded on your personal tapestry by your monkey. So the monkey has a bag of crayons. Something happens to you. You're a child that is in a very loving family, just very busy. And you're crying and crying and crying and crying. How does it make you feel? I ask children this. How does that make you feel? I'm not loved. I'm not important. They've forgotten I'm there. Okay, what colour does that look like? Blue, red, green. It can be different for everybody. But you crying, you're left alone, your needs are not being met. The monkey colours in a thread because I see each of you as a complete tapestry. The outline of who you are, filled with thousands of threads like stitches. And when I stand back far enough, I see the beautiful whole person that you are. But the monkey is intent on each thread. And each time you have an emotional experience, great, fantastic or otherwise, he will colour in one of your threads. The child gets left quite a lot to cry. He colours in quite a few threads of that deep dark colour. Child goes to, is potty trained. Exciting, big family gathering, lots of love. Everybody's busy. Suddenly realises he needs to find the potty. He doesn't know where it is. He's pulling on people's shirt tails. He's asking, everyone's too busy, and then he wets his trousers, and suddenly everybody's, why didn't you ask for the potty? Why have you allowed that to happen? And the monkey's going, we tried. How does that make him feel? Not important, not loved, forgotten. He colours in again. He goes to nursery. Comes out at nursery as I've got a 3-year-old grandson who's amazing, and it's the greatest joy to go and meet him from nursery at the end of the day. But so many people, and I watch this all the time, their children come running out with their pictures at the age of 4, and mum or dad, not deliberately, but are so busy with their lives, are going, I just need to, hang on sweetheart, I'll be with you in a minute, I just need to finish this text, I've just got to speak to so-and-so's mummy, I'll be with you. The bubble bursts. These seem really insignificant things. You're never going to remember these as an adult necessarily, but your monkey is marking everything down. Children are much more affected by what is said to them at school and what is said to them by their parents, or what they overhear other people say about other people that they think is about themselves, than any of us have ever realised. Children who call each other fat or nerdy or thicko or whatever at school in the playground, it's a danger zone. We'll say, it's all right, sweetheart, they're just calling you names, it means nothing. Oh, but it does. The monkey takes it all on board and records it. And I have worked extensively with children of 8, 9, 12, 15, 21, who do not want to be in this world because they were called fat through primary school, or they were called thick. As teachers, and I was a teacher for 25 years, we say, you mustn't bully, you mustn't say unkind things. But we're not teaching small children to understand the real implication of those words that you say to someone else or that you receive from someone else. We need to teach children to be really resilient about the fact that actually if a child is calling you names, it is because they have a problem that they are trying to deal with, and the only way they can deal with it is to diss somebody else. So what's happening is that we're building pictures in our tapestries with all these colours. And you may have a blissful life and have loads of yellows and orange and pink. And you may have a lot of that still, as I did. Or you've just got big patches of dark colours. And those dark patches create what are called limiting beliefs. And one of my beliefs is I shouldn't have a voice. But my biggest belief that I learned that my monkey has hung on to the whole of my life is that it doesn't matter how hard I try, I will always fail in the end. And that gets me even now. That goes back to the time that I discovered that my mum left me behind. Then when I was 10, I had done everything at primary school, everything from a 4-year-old that was half a year older than the other 4-year-olds, I helped them with their coats, and all the way through primary school, I helped all the other children. It's what I was born to do, is to help other people, because I was born to look after my mother. It's been exhausting being a people pleaser all my life, but it's also very exhilarating. But I did that all the way through primary school, and for the first time ever, on the last speech day when I was 10 and a half, they said, we're going to make a special award, and this award is going to the child who has given everything to the community and helped everybody else. And the award goes to, and God knows why, as a shy, retiring child, I stepped forward, and it wasn't me. So again, there was the evidence that it doesn't matter how hard I try, I will always fail at the last minute. So actually preparing for this has been a nightmare for my husband because I've been round and round in circles. In the end, I just threw all the paper away, everything I was trying to write, and said, just write, just speak. So what I'm saying is the solution to the global mental health problem is not through pharmaceuticals, it's not through medication, it is not through therapy, although we desperately need more of that. It's actually about each and every one of us changing the way we communicate with, we speak to, we respond to emotionally, and what we do in the presence of children from the minute they're conceived, because even when your baby is inside, it can hear all the conversations, it feels the mother's response, and that embeds things into the systems that can make them vulnerable to mental health problems later on. If we could teach children, as I do all the time, the power of their own minds to change their thinking from the very earliest age, and to stand up and say in class together, I am awesome, I am awesome, not I can't do, I can't write, I can't read, I can't. I give monkey puppets to children, young children. I gave it to a 6-year-old, exceptionally bright, deeply empathetic. And she couldn't read very well, and the rest of the class couldn't. It traumatized her because she loved books. And we got her, she talked to the monkey every night. And she said, when I go to school tomorrow and I read, I want you to help me. And I got them together, her and the monkey, to say, we can read beautifully. We can read. It took 3 weeks. I had a 16-year-old client who's wet the bed her entire life. Can you imagine how destructive that is? None of her friends wanted to be friends because they were all doing sleepovers. She wouldn't invite them to hers. She wouldn't accept the invitation to anyone else because she knew if one person discovered, she would end up, the whole school would know. She'd been in and out of Great Ormond Street for 12 years and they said, there's nothing wrong with you. Sorry, off you go. It took me a session to work out with her, and she was so stunned that it was because of her father that she was having this issue, because of early life things. And I said to her, I want you to imagine I have a magic wand. If I did, and this is my last part of my story, if I had a magic wand and I could take that away and you never wet the bed again, how would you feel? Give me 3 emotions. And she said, I would feel ecstatic. I'd feel proud and free. And I said, right, here's the work. I can't do it. You have to do this, but you have the power to change this. Great Ormond Street doesn't, but you do. I want you to write a sentence with those words in, and I want you to write it out 20 mornings every morning and 20 times every night before you go to bed. And she wrote a sentence that was along the lines of, I am so ecstatic. I'm totally dry. I'm utterly proud and free. And she blooming did it. Beyond everything else, every morning she wrote it out. And I said, not while you're thinking about breakfast or you're thinking about your prep, thinking about flooding your body, and this is the key, flooding your body with those positive emotions, about how amazing it feels to be dry. It took 4 weeks. She's never wet the bed since. She did that. We all have the capacity to do that. We need to be mindful of what we say. We need to be mindful of the emotions that we show to our children. We need to understand the impact of every single word. The child that is told, you've got 10 out of 10 for spellings, Dad says as a joke, why wasn't it 11? My husband got 97% in Latin when he was 15, and his dad said, so what happened to the other 3? I hear this all the time. Think to yourselves of those things that your monkey has recorded, and please join with me in sharing this message and taking it out to as many as you can, that we can together change the face of mental health, if only we change the way we communicate, behave with, and respond to our children. Thank you.